Hello there you guys, welcome to one of my videos. According to David Ornstein from The Athletic, Ralf Rangnick is set to be announced as Manchester United's new interim manager in the next 24 hours. But it's unclear whether he will be in charge to face Arsenal or Crystal Palace. Ralf Rangnick will be Manchester United's interim manager until the end of the season. Then after that, he will take a consultancy role for 2 years. Rangnick is the head of sports and development at Lokomotiv Moscow. Before, he's managed Schalke. Revert back to 2011, he won the German Cup at Schalke. He also got Schalke to the Champions League semi-finals. Before, he managed RB Leipzig. He got them to the final back in 2019. Before, he's managed Hoffenheim, and he's also managed Stuttgart. He's been coaching for a very long time. I think Ralf Rangnick will improve Manchester United. I think he'll get the best out of these group of players. He's good at developing young players. And I think he will be capable of winning trophies. Manchester United will get a permanent manager at the end of the season. We'll get either Mauricio Pochettino or we'll get Erik ten Hag. Now, I've been talking with you a lot about Pochettino recently. Revert back to last week, Pochettino came out and said that he's happy at PSG and he won't let the Man United rumours distract him. And it came out and said that PSG rejected Manchester United's move to appoint Mauricio Pochettino. But last week it did say that Pochettino is interested in the Manchester United job, and the Manchester Evening News came out and said that Man United are confident of appointing Mauricio Pochettino as their next permanent manager. And he said Manchester United agreed to pay the 10 million compensation fee for Pochettino. Revert back to when Manchester United sacked Jose Mourinho. Man United should have got Pochettino then, but the club decided to go with Solskjaer instead. Pochettino is a good manager, despite him hardly winning anything. I think he has won a cup with PSG. Pochettino's got a full season left on his PSG contract. He's proven in the Premier League is Pochettino, which is also beneficial because Pochettino did endure 5.5 years at Tottenham before. Analysing the vast majority of his tenure when he was at Tottenham were competing in and out of the top 4. In 2018, he guided Tottenham to their first ever Champions League final, and he almost won the Premier League when he was Tottenham manager. And before he managed Southampton, he guided Southampton to their highest ever finish in the Premier League. He only enjoyed a short tenure at Southampton, so they're the clubs he's managed in the Premier League at the moment. and before he managed Espanyol. Erik ten Hag, he's said to be interested in the Manchester United job in the summer, and Ajax will not stand in his way if he wants to leave at the end of the season. Erik ten Hag is Manchester United's alternative target to Pochettino. So if Man United don't get Pochettino at the end of the season, they'll look to get Erik ten Hag. I presume there's a lot of United fans that would like to see Erik ten Hag come in at the end of the season. You've got to admire what he's done at Ajax. You know, he's won a few trophies with them. He's been Ajax manager for 4 years. He's got a contract with Ajax until 2023. Before Ajax, he was at Utrecht. Before Utrecht, he managed Bayern Munich's reserve team. And before then, he was at Go Ahead Eagles. As for Michael Carrick, I've got to give him credit for the 2 games he was in charge of Manchester United. Obviously, Michael Carrick was in charge for the game against Villarreal last week. You know, Manchester United won that game 2-0. Reflecting on the win against Villarreal, Manchester United are into the knockout stages of the Champions League, with still 1 game to spare in the group. And of course, Michael Carrick was in charge for the game against Chelsea yesterday. That ended a 1-1 draw. Obviously, we saw Jadon Sancho score his 2nd goal for the club against Chelsea. It was his 1st goal in the Premier League. Sancho's goal came from a mistake from Jorginho. It was a lovely counter-attacking goal though. We seem to be getting the best out of Jadon Sancho now, because he's getting played in the correct position. Revert back to when we had Solskjaer, we wasn't getting the best out of Sancho. Because when we had Solskjaer was playing Sancho out of position, and there was a few games that Sancho didn't even play in when we had Solskjaer. And Chelsea's goal yesterday came from Jorginho from the penalty spot. Chelsea got awarded the penalty for Pisaka's foul on Thiago Silva in the 6-yard box. Obviously, Michael Carrick did come in as the interim manager to replace Solskjaer, because Solskjaer was officially sacked by Manchester United following the 4-1 defeat to Watford. And as you all know, Solskjaer gave a farewell interview, and he got emotional in that farewell interview, which of course was understandable, because Solskjaer adores the club, and Solskjaer was part of the club for a long time. He was Manchester United manager for almost 3 years, and Ole endured 11 years as a player for Man United, so that's almost 14 years in total. Despite Manchester United sacking Solskjaer, all Manchester United fans still adore him, reflecting on what he did for the club. Solskjaer is a club legend. He will always be a club legend. Manchester United made the right decision sacking Solskjaer, because it was quite obvious he couldn't take this team any further. Manchester United didn't really want to sack him, but they had no choice but to sack him in the end. Manchester United paid Solskjaer around £7.5 million, because revert back to last summer, he signed a 3-year contract with an option of a further year. Manchester United should have never give Ole that contract, because I did know for a long time that he was not the long-term manager for Man United. I'm surprised Ole lasted nearly 3 years as United manager, but the reason he lasted as long as he did is because he's a legend of the club. Disregarding that, I think he would have been sacked a long time ago. Ole has no proven pedigree as a manager. The clubs he has managed in his managerial career, he managed Man United's reserve team for a couple of years. He also managed Cardiff. His record at Cardiff was terrible. He got Cardiff relegated. That's the reason he got sacked from Cardiff. He endured 2 spells at Molde. He won a few Norwegian titles and that with them, but they're not a big club. And of course, Solskjaer managed Manchester United's senior squad. But reflecting on the poor performances under Ole, not all of the blame stemmed from Ole. He was accountable for some things. Revert back to what I said before, his tactics and his team selections were questioned a lot, but there was also players that had to take responsibility for those poor performances as well. Ole did get appointed in as Man United's interim manager back in December 2018 to replace Mourinho. Solskjaer did well in his first 3 months as the interim manager, so reflecting on that, the club decided to give him the job on a permanent basis back in March 2019. Ole knew when he'd taken over at Manchester United it was going to be a massive job. Not only a massive job, a difficult job as well, despite him knowing the club through thick and thin, because Ole was managing one of the biggest clubs in the world. But when Ole was United manager, at the start of this season, I did say this season was always going to be big for him, and obviously the pressure was on him as well, reflecting on the summer transfer window Man United had, because Man United enjoyed a very good summer transfer window this year. Made 4 signings. 3 of the 4 signings were major signings, and Man United must have spent around £141 million. And revert back to last summer as well, when Ole was United manager, he got very good backing from the board. The Glazers backed him, Ed Woodward backed him. I think Ed Woodward's leaving Manchester United in January. Well, revert back to April, it got announced that Ed Woodward will be leaving Man United. It's when that European Super League came into the equation. Earlier on this season, though, it did say that Ed Woodward was in talks with Man United to stay under a new role. Woodward's had like a 16-year association with the club. Our director of football, John Murtaugh, backed Ole, and so too did Darren Fletcher. So reflecting on that, Ole ran out of excuses. Solskjaer did not win a trophy when he was Man United manager, and I said he was never capable of winning trophies as manager. Man United have not won a trophy since 2017. The expectations were far too high for Solskjaer to exceed as United manager, and he was in a position that he shouldn't have really been in. When Solskjaer was Man United manager, he signed 14 players. And Man United spent over £400 million under Solskjaer. Solskjaer also got rid of a lot of players when he was United manager. He loaned players out, he got rid of a lot of players permanently. I like the way he developed the youth when he was United manager. In Solskjaer's first full season when he was United manager, he got us to 3 semi-finals and he got us a third place finish. Then in his second full season, he got us to the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup. He got us to the quarter-finals of the FA Cup and he got us to the Europa League final. That was his first major final as United manager, but unfortunately he didn't win it. Last season he got us a second place finish. Don't forget as well, when we had Solskjaer, Man United went 29 games unbeaten away from home in the Premier League. Solskjaer was the fourth permanent manager to be sacked since Ferguson. Because of course since Ferguson, Manchester United sacked David Moyes. Sacked him after like 10 months. Man United finished 7th under the David Moyes era. I think that's the lowest we finished in the Premier League era. Then Manchester United sacked Louis van Gaal after 2 years or so. Manchester United did win the FA Cup under Louis van Gaal. And then Manchester United sacked Jose Mourinho after like 2.5 years. Mourinho did enjoy one good season at Man United, because Mourinho won 3 trophies in his first season. And of course, Manchester United sacked Solskjaer. Manchester United, though, have not been the same team since Ferguson retired, and a lot of United fans predicted it was all going to go wrong when Ferguson retired, which obviously it has done. No one's going to replicate what Ferguson did at the club. You know, Ferguson won 30 odd trophies at Manchester United, including 13 Premier League titles. So reflecting on that, he brought success to the club. But Ferguson didn't settle in straight away because he didn't win out in his first 4 years at Man United. So it does take some managers time to settle in. Ferguson was at Manchester United for around 26 years, so he was a very long-serving manager. Manchester United are going to offload players next year. I think next year Cavani will be leaving the club. Cavani initially lost his place in the team with the club re-signing Ronaldo last summer. Cavani's out with injury at the moment. He was out with injury earlier on this season. This season is Cavani's second full season at Man United. We got Cavani on a free transfer from PSG. He has got under a year left on his Man United contract. It was back in May he signed that 1-year contract extension. Martial, I think he's another one that's leaving the football club next year. Martial doesn't really get in the team, does he? But surprisingly enough, he started on that left-hand side against Villarreal. And at one point, Martial was out with injury. Martial's no longer good enough to represent the club. He's only enjoyed one good season at Man United. That was his debut season under the Louis van Gaal era. Martial's been at Manchester United for 6.5 years. He's got 3 years left on his contract. We got Martial from Monaco for 58 million back in 2015. Jesse Lingard, I think he's also leaving next year. Revert back to the other week, it said Jesse Lingard's future at Man United is in doubt after talks over a new contract collapsed. Lingard's contract at Man United expires next summer. He said not so long ago that Lingard could leave Man United for just £10 million. Lingard doesn't really get in the team. He's only made one start this season. That was West Ham in the Carabao Cup. He did come on in the 1-1 draw against Chelsea yesterday. Lingard has been part of Manchester United for a long time. He risen up our academy. Now he's had his good periods at Man United. He's also had his bad periods as well. West Ham want to re-sign Lingard. The second half of last season, he enjoyed a 4-month loan spell with West Ham and he made an impact. And I heard as well the other week that Lingard wants to go abroad. Juan Mata, I think he's also going next year. Well, his contract at Man United expires next summer because earlier on this year, Mata signed a 1-year contract extension. I can't understand why we extended his contract for the further year. I really can't, because Mata doesn't get in the team, plus he's lost that yard of pace and he's aging up. But despite all of that, he has had a good career at Manchester United. You know, he's made over 200 appearances in all competitions and he's scored over 50 goals. Mata's been a long-serving player at Man United. He's been at Man United for 7.5 years now. We got Juan Mata from Chelsea back in 2014 for 40 million. We brought him in under the David Moyes era. Matic, I think he's also leaving next year. Matic isn't one of our first choice midfielders, but despite that, he still seems to get his opportunities. Surprisingly enough, Matic is ahead of Van der Beek in our midfield. Matic obviously played in a midfield three yesterday against Chelsea. I've always had my reservations about Matic because he's always been a static midfielder and plus he's aging up, but he has had his good games at United. I think Matic is the only predominant centre defensive midfielder that Man United have got at the moment. Matic has been at the club for around 4.5 years. We got him from Chelsea back in 2017 for £40 million. Van der Beek, he could be leaving the football club in January. Pogba, you know, he could be leaving in January. Tellez, Jones, Bide, a lot, I think they'll be leaving next year. And I think Dean Henderson is going out on loan. Well, Henderson's confirmed that he wants to go out on loan. Henderson doesn't get in goal now because De Gea reclaimed that #1 spot back. So there you go. And, you know, you've got very, very good players at Manchester United, and hopefully when Ralf Rangnick is official, you know, he can get the best out of these group of players. Because obviously in the last few months of Solskjaer's managerial tenure, we weren't getting the best out of these group of players. Look who we've got. You've got the best player in the world overall in Cristiano Ronaldo. Surprisingly, he didn't start against Chelsea yesterday. He was on the bench. He did come on in the game. You've got Sancho now that's doing well. You know, you've got Rashford that's also a good player. Thought he did well against Chelsea yesterday. Did well when he came on against Villarreal last week. You've got Cavani that's also a good player as well. You know, you've got Fernandes that's a very, very good player. Defensively, Fernandes did well against Chelsea yesterday, but didn't really show that much attacking intent. You've got Mason Greenwood, that's also a talented player. You know, he hasn't been available recently because he's been out with COVID. You've got Donny van der Beek, that's also a good player as well. Van der Beek came on against Chelsea yesterday, you know, started ahead of Fernandes in that #10 against Villarreal last week. Also came on in the 4-1 defeat to Watford and scored. That was his second goal for the club. You know, you've also got Paul Pogba. That's a good player as well. Not only a good player, he's an imperative player as well. Pogba is out for the rest of the year with a thigh injury. He suffered the thigh injury in France training earlier on this season. You've got Luke Shaw, that's a good left back overall, but Shaw has certainly not proven how good he can be so far this season. Well, Shaw's not been available recently because he's been out with a head injury, so reflecting on that, Tellez has started ahead of him. I'm sure at some point Luke Shaw will regain his form. Tellez, he's another good player. I've been impressed with him recently. I thought he put a good performance out against Chelsea yesterday. Also played well against Villarreal last week. Tellez was out with injury earlier on this season. Tellez will only play though when Shaw's not available. The reason we brought Tellez in was to provide competition for Shaw. Harry Maguire, he can be a good centre-half, but hasn't really proven how good he can be at Man United. He's been terrible this season. He's been even worse since he came back from that calf injury. Maguire's not available at the moment. He's suspended. He got sent off in the defeat to Watford the other week. I think Maguire has now got 2 games to serve. You seem to get the best out of Maguire when he's alongside Varane. But when he's alongside Bailly or Lindelof or both of them, you can't get the best out of him. You've got Varane, that's also a very good centre-half, but he's not available at the moment. He's out with a hamstring injury. I think he's out for another couple of weeks. Varane's already endured 2 injuries since he signed for the club. He's got a hamstring injury now. Earlier on this season, Varane was out with a groin injury. And he was out with that groin injury for a few weeks. You've got Eric Bailly, that's also a good centre-half as well. That doesn't really get regular game time. Bailly played against Chelsea yesterday. That was his 4th appearance this season. And he put a very good performance out to his credit. But Bailly lost his place in the team a while ago, obviously with the signing of Varane in the summer transfer window. And for some reason, Lindelof's been preferred to Bailly. My element of concern about Bailly is injury prone. And Wan-Bissaka, he's good defensively, but the attacking side of his game is not so good. Played against Chelsea yesterday. I thought he was quite poor, if I'm going to be honest with you. His positioning was quite poor. And like I said, he was the one that gave away the penalty. And you've got De Gea, that's a very, very good goalkeeper as well. He's done really, really well this season. Did well yesterday against Chelsea. He made some good saves in that first half to deny Callum Hudson-Odoi, Rudiger, and I think he also denied Ziyech. I don't recall De Gea having to make a save though in the second half. He also made some world-class saves in the 2-0 win against Villarreal last week. So there you go. Later on today, your Man United Arsenal preview will be coming up. So anyway guys, that's everything to update you today. Drop your comments, likes below on the channel. If you do, consider subscribe as always, and take care. God bless. See you all again very, very soon.